What we're looking at here is and you know these are kind of a reoccurring pattern in my dreams. At any rate, I have this I don't know. It's like I have this sense that I don't know, that I'm seeing something and it's different than what it seems like, but it's something that I should see. It's something that's deep. It's and of course it's it hides itself. The extraordinary hides itself in the mundane a lot of times. There's times that I heard people say in like religious forms, specifically in Daoism and Buddhism and the like Eastern religions, not really religions but thoughts, but they say that the highest honor is the religion of no religion. In other words, don't stink of religion, don't smell like religion, don't everything you do is talk about religion. And of course, so it's the religion of the unreligionist, of non-religionists, no religion. It's hiding something. It's very deep and spiritual, but it's hiding something. And so what you're seeing on the screen is I'm trying to figure out these patterns, what I'm seeing in my dreams, and to put it in perspective, I don't know when it is, but I feel like I'm on this path, and it's a long time ago. Sometimes I may even feel like I'm before hominids. Sometimes I feel like I'm, in 1600. And I'm going to kind of run through and just kind of show some of these images here. Of course, you'll see them as we go, and I'm going to get Donald to just kind of, join in with me. But of course, this thing is going.
I mean, now just as a counter, thing is, your subconscious mind is always trying to tell you something. We've discussed, the vision of a reality and many ways of way people believe, but there is a subconscious mind. So your dreams could be telling you something. Now, dream makers and dream catchers, and hey, that's been a part of native life and many other people's ideas. And again, I think that's that sensitivity to there are areas beyond our consciousness. I don't necessarily mean ghosts, kinetics, any of that kind of stuff, but there are people who have hunches, ideas, and dreams. I remember for a long time I had dreams, and there was always deja vu. I had them when I was a kid and would see it when I was older, but remember I had it back then. But there's the fallacy of the mind, the fallacy of memory. But I think in dream state, your subconscious tries to tell you and correlate things that you cannot consciously understand, but it tries to give you hints. Because, well, it's you dreaming it, and it's you thinking it, and it can't tell you any more than you know, but it may give you hints to, like Sherlock Holmes, things that you didn't consciously understand, and they're trying to help you understand.
Well, that's exactly the way the way I interpret it as well. It's just like this. You can't give someone what they're the way human beings interpret things. The way that we're set up is kind of a sequential type thing, one word after the other. But then again, reality comes at you from every direction all the time. Of course, now on the screen here now this is close to where I feel like I'm at. And sometimes I can, like I'm way ahead, and I may be on a hill or a mountain, and I look back and I see people with me that I know are with me, and like I'm a scout or something. And then sometimes I see people that I know, something that I know is eerie. It's like weird. I don't want to go any closer to it. But now all this stuff to me, and of course, I what I did with this right here is I asked for everything to be there. Early man, hominids. There's going to be Neanderthals. You see right now, these are like kind of apey type things. And of course, I'm just because I think that this place, wherever this is, this may be out of Africa. I have no idea, but I feel like I'm connected to the
Well,
whole.
now I'm gonna throw this in just real fast, and this goes back to imagine the story of Moses and think about what you're asking. Now we're talking about two different situations. You're thinking kind of like I am. I'm agnostic, but the story is the same. There was someone was more enlightened, and they led them beyond the trials before. Now, again, I am not a Bible guy, but I've read it. So, yeah, we ain't gonna get that way. But what do you think about the contrast between what you're asking and is further in the past, as far as us versus this?
Oh yeah, I mean it's I mean it's like everybody. Whenever you have what I call an experiential thing where you realize that you're part of everything. Whenever you realize that you weren't injected here like some kind of a vaccine, into Earth, that you came out of it. We were talking about conception a few days ago, and of course, that's a weird thing. We don't understand it. It's I don't understand it. I have multiple fucking degrees. I don't get it. How two little things can touch, and next thing you know, you got a human being walking around 18 years later is bigger than you are. It's weird shit. But there's some weird shit that goes on. I mean, just and again, 900 times have I said I'm on a ball of dirt, rock, and water spinning around a huge ball of nuclear fusion. I mean, come on, that's some weird shit just by itself. Because this is not some. I mean, this is real reality. People forget about that. Of course, people talk about all this stuff, but what I'm showing you on the screen is actually probably what happened. It's like they explored further and further every day, and then, and then probably animals too. Everything was there was some kind of a conception that went on down there, and I don't know exactly what it was, but some kind of water was down there and some voodoo, and it started making these animals come out of that thing. But look at that right there. I mean, that is, and I asked for a fire to be there, and we're gonna get into some deep shit here in a minute, so I better keep it going because I got hundreds of pictures to show. But these things are just, it's just, I put the stones there. Let me say this real quick. I want you to take it over, but I put the stones.
Yes,
I put the stones there. I asked specifically for there to be large stones everywhere. Go ahead.
Well, I guess what I was trying to point out is, okay, the story you're telling. Now, hey, I love it, but now we're talking about like two different continents. On the North American continent, the Native American things along the Mississippi. I mean, all the stuff, the old tribes that lived here before anyone from the Arab countries or the European countries showed up. This is the way they live. So, see, to me, what you're basically writing is the Moses story that the Jerusalem, Christianity, the Black Book, they created. And this is a very deep dive into the contrast.
Well, let me just say this. Hold on. Hold on a second. Now, let me just say this: is I don't think about religion. This is not. In fact,
no, I'm not saying. I'm just doing a contrast.
Okay, you do a contrast, but let me just say real quick that I didn't. You can obviously say I was thinking about a world from an evolutionary perspective here. But now and I didn't just say that it was, and I didn't say specifically it was out of Africa until just then when I was thinking about it. But this is a trail. I think it's more metaphoric. Okay. But now let's go on to other now that we've said that, let's go on and talk about it as a metaphor for Christianity, because I don't understand that metaphor. I'm not as familiar with it as you are, maybe. So tell me about it.
What I was trying to say is that, the Moses story, led someone out of the bondage of Egypt, etc., etc. You are a Native American of North America. The North American concept isn't even in the Bible. I'm just trying to say it's like you're telling the story in my mind because of your historic knowledge. I'm not saying you believe it, and I'm not saying you're trying to be Jesus. I'm just saying the stories have a contrast in my head. You're following a trail, a well-worn trail, but yours is more Native American, more into tune with nature, more in tune with we are a part of the land, we're part of everything bigger versus that. I was just saying there's a contrast there. Compared to what you had said.
Oh yeah,
Didn't
yeah. I
mean
mean,
it.
and I agree with you. But I want to point it out there, by that is not the way I was thinking about it. But now the way you see it now, like I said, I don't know. I know that the Great Migration. Whenever I think of what I was thinking of there, now let's talk about both those because that is an interesting concept. I agree with you. I mean, I agree with that's very fucking fascinating. I want to get into it. But let me just say that. See, I'm thinking of out of Africa theory of evolution. Like there's been waves of out of Africa. There was this
Absolutely evolution.
well, there was a Homo erectus that went out and it kind of went to China or to Asia. Then you had like the Neanderthals that went more or less into Europe, and then you had. This is just one level. There's many before this because there's Australopithecus and all those other ones that come through there. But then you had the Homo sapiens coming out of Africa, and now this could be a metaphor of that. It could be me in my mind. I believe that I can connect to a collective unconscious sometimes. But now, really, what that means is I'm just smoking weed, and I get real deep and I sit there.
I know, but it's a very sacred looking picture. And again, to my mind, that brought back it's a well-worn path. Where's it going? Where's the end point? Why is this trail so well worn? And so, hey, that kind of got me to the religious side. I'm sorry, but it still goes back to the same.
No. Let's talk about the religious side. No, let's talk about the religious side because I don't really know that. I don't know what metaphor, and I know the religion pretty well, but I don't know what path you're talking about with the religion. You have to enlighten me on it.
Any path that is there. If this is like way before any organized religion.
Hold on a second. So hold on a second now. So like in Eastern thought, you have what's called different ways. You have the water way, the Buddha way.
Beyond Eastern thought, we're talking about.
I know, but now, listen. I'm trying to get you here. So each one of those are a path. It doesn't matter which path you're on a particular path. So is that what you're saying? Like that Christianity is a particular path, and that's what you're saying that we're talking about here? Or I'm trying to get what you're talking about because I'm coming at it from an evolutionary perspective, Donald. So I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to get where you're at, but I'm trying, explain it to us what you mean.
And that's what I was asking you: is at what perspective are you looking at this? We were talking about the Neolithic, the Homo sapiens. I mean, all of those religions, there was no Eastern philosophies even involved at this point. This was folks that looked at the sky.
No. I didn't say it. I was using that as a metaphor to understand what you're talking about. When I said those, what I meant is that they look at religion, each different thought of religion. They don't say, well, that's your religion. They say that's your path. So in other words, there's a Christian path. There's the, and in divisions of that, you have this kind of path, but over there you have the path that they have. Now, are you saying this is a metaphorical path? Because I'm trying to get what you're talking about here. Because you got me interested now, because I don't know. Because again, I am a strict evolutionist. I mean, when I look at this right here, and look here, the dream I'm having with it. Sometimes I'm an animal, Donald. Sometimes I'm an ancient hominid, and I know that I'm not human. And sometimes I'm a fucking bird. And I'm going to show you that with these pictures. But now I'm telling you, I don't feel like there's, with me, I have not put it into the metaphor of a religion in terms of like something in terms of the Black Book. Now, I would love to understand how people would interpret it from a Christian religious perspective, because maybe God's talking to me. I don't know. I'm just sharing what I'm seeing, and I come strictly from evolutionary perspective. I don't think about it any other way. I don't, because I mean, it's not real. That stuff's not real to me. It's not. I don't think about that. I'm not even Jewish. I'm fucking English. I mean, I'm a pagan. I'm a heathen. I'm not a Christian. I never have been. I don't even know what that stuff means. But it's not my religion. I'm willing to learn. And that's what I want everybody to say is, if there's anybody that has any comments on what this means in Christian religion, me and Donald, I'm asking a poor person to describe me about Christianity, because he's an agnostic. He doesn't really understand it that well. Hell,
No. I understand Christianity, and go ahead though. I'm just trying to be sure. I am still here. I'm waiting for you to finish.
well, I'm trying to make sure you understand what I'm saying, because you hadn't got it, everything we talked about yet, because I haven't explained it. I haven't explained it in my thing on here. But it's a path. And I don't know what it means. Is I'm on this trail. But now that's not what you're seeing on the screen right now. On the screen right now, I've got this ancient Native American woman out in a field with bees flying around her, and she's a beekeeper. And she's in flowers. But they're not really Native American. I just use Indigenous American because those are people that I know about. They seem very animistic. They seem to be very in tune with nature, which is how I kind of like to think. And they don't see the difference between a bee and a person. They're both things that are here, and both are good, and you need both. They thought of themselves as helpful. But now, see, Americans don't really think like that. We're capitalists. We're right-wing authoritarians or leftist people. We don't really talk about nature. Everybody lives in these buildings, and
but we are a country built on capitalism, because that is what we're built on. But yes, the connection back to nature is something that's missing. The old farm boy thing. Sorry. Go ahead, continue.
Well, yeah, and of course, it's even deeper than that. It's like, because even that is mechanized. But there's people, before that, they didn't think. See, that's the thing that I was trying to contrast with Christianity, is that Christianity thinks you were injected here. God put you here. But the way I look at it, God may have planted that seed. This is a thing I was trying to bring up in a previous podcast. God may have been the Father, but the Father didn't know necessarily that he was creating us in particular. This seed that was distributed, this whatever it was that came here and landed here, and the rest of the environment was good, and it took off growing like these flowers and this deer and this person here. I mean, in my mind, that is a seed that can be distributed out through the whole universe. And whenever the systems are right, then if it has the right amount of this and right amount of that, and whoever distributed the seeds would know. To me, it's part of that little thing, that the other dream I was talking about with the scientist or the wizard that's walking through these hallways of the castle, and he's looking at these universes. I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, no, let me interject this as well. Man was created in his own image. Did that say that it looks like us? There's another question I've always had, is that's a big thing, is God created man in his own image. So what image was it? Us? Or is the universe big enough to go, there's more than just us. It's just an image of it. And maybe it's only a emotional part of his mind, a consciousness of his mind. I mean, this is a very deep thing. And the thing with religion that I was trying to get to is, imagine an ant. Now, we don't understand ants. We think they're insects, but they have a consciousness. They have a queen. They have an organization. We are gods to them, because we can go over and piss on them, pour gasoline on them, or we can stomp them out. we are gods to ants. Now, that's a very poor example, but you pretty much better get the understanding because that is nature. Now, we're going back to nature. The nature of what is religion. Religion is you believe something's bigger than you are. And then you start following their tenets. But are you following the right tenets? Are you following the ones that are fearful? Are you following the ones that are enlightened and are welcome and open to different ideas? Our society is so divided by those very simple concepts. We have found a quote unquote God, no God. I mean, you pick the name of the God, but we as a society have picked something bigger than us and have decided there are divisions between it. And at the end of the day, it all goes back to, well, when you die, you're going to go somewhere or you're going to go down there, depending on the rewards. That's what makes you make decisions. That's why I'm like, I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to do what makes me happy and encourage others to do what makes them happy. Don't go overboard because you can't be too damn happy because you can't have happy without sadness. There's a contrast between happy and sadness. If there's no sadness, you don't know what happy is.
All right, so here we talk about Alan Watts sometimes, and I found this. I don't know what the hell that is. That's a weird looking. That's weird. That shaman's calling up some weird shit. But anyway, we talk about sometimes Alan Watts, and I found this cool
I
little
like
thing.
Alan Watts.
So and I found this 4 or 5 serious philosophical questions, and I want to throw one out there. The first one. And let's just kind of think about it in the context of where we've been already talking. So the first one is, who started it? And you can see real quick, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Who started it? Was it a seed that was injected here a long time ago through, even if it didn't even mean to be injected here, like this, the right little mineral came here that mixed with another mineral that was already here, and then some water came in, and next thing you know, it was growing life, and then, then we have us from an evolutionary perspective, which is truly random. Or does that seed have a purpose? Is that seed like a lot of the seeds we have on Earth today? It grows into a specific thing. It does what it's supposed to do. It turns into whatever. And just like the seeds that we're manipulating with human beings, we want it to be 5'11", blue eyes, blonde hair, toes that fit, that are shaped in a certain way. I mean, you can do all kinds of shit.
Toes? Oh, Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a thing. But you can order it like you want, But yeah, who started it? That's the first question. Who started it? Was it a seed? Was it God that came down and built the earth in 7 days? Was it was it like what was it? I don't know. I mean, I like to see.
And again, here it goes back to the earth was seeded with humanity. Don't matter if it just grew from an asteroid or any other things. And, going back to some of the pictures you looked at, the peace pipe thing and stuff. Now, Indians, and I'm using that in a very general term, and I apologize if anybody gets upset, but they had their religions. You had the wolf, you had the coyote, the trickster god. I mean, and then you go to Scandinavia, they had Loki. That was their trickster god. Every piece of humanity had different, what they would consider religions. Your beliefs are your beliefs. There's not no religion. It's just what you believe. Hey, the Indians, they know things that every nature scientist could never know. I mean, we've discussed some microdosing on some other casts, and talking about in Texas and Oklahoma. but now there's so many folks going down that way because folks have discovered that. They're trying to go back to nature, but then you're looking at now you can look back to politics. Jeez, I don't want my brain going that way. I'm still too high for that. But yeah, the acceptance that you are not what you think you are in this world. You are a piece, part, or cog. You may be very, very important, or you know what? You may be very minor, but enjoy the time you got here. Try to help others, be productive. If you don't want to be, then don't bitch about, oh, poor me. Well, then get off your ass. Now, that still
Hey,
may be Gen X.
well, let me just kind of again change the flow a little bit, because what you're seeing on the screen now, what people are seeing, what people are seeing is I played with it. I played with it. It was so much fun because I went back and I started playing with specific centuries, like 1000 BCE, 500 BCE, 1, Common Era, and then I went on up to 1200, 1300. And I started playing around with 1400 and 1541 specifically. There were some interesting things happen because I had these Native American people. I put indigenous American people sitting on the banks of the Bayou Bartholomew in 1541 or 1542. And then you started seeing, guess what? Europeans show up. And it started changing the nature of the images it created. And now the people that have been watching the video or looking at the images have been seeing this kind of morph along. Of course, I've been moving people back and forth from the Ouachita River to the Bartholomew Bayou, but now I think they're probably still on the Ouachita River right now, but they're going to be transitioning. So this is what people will be seeing in the background is they'll be seeing the Bayou Bartholomew whenever the Europeans get there. And it's going to be a hell of a fight, you see, and there's like 4 or 5 slides of it. And I'll try to slow it down there and look at it. But it's so weird how this thing detected such variables. And it has, before all that, it was a totally different world. And I ran through it all the way up, just in many, many different years, just to play with it. And but I included hawks, and these are here like with the person sitting there with a crow, and this is just eating dinner. This is an indigenous American eating dinner because I wanted to know what the AI would say this person is going to be eating and what the table would look like. And this is kind of weird, the things that you see. I don't even know what's there. I know there's kind of tomatoes and chicken it looked like, but the skull is a nice accoutrement. There's birds there. Of course, anytime you eat birds,
this thing will just make up all kinds of shit, right? But now the images are.
I understand that. Hold on. Let me clarify that. Yes, it does. But now it also makes it up based upon research. It does. Okay, so there's you're going to see a certain percentage of this thing getting things right. Okay. So you're right, but I want to make sure everybody understands this is watching this is that this thing is getting better and better and better. Each time a person like me is sitting there for 14 hours a day describing specific scenes and downloading the ones that are close and leaving the other ones, it's learning.
You have a sickness for that. Stop.
Yeah. No, I don't want to do it for it. I love it. This is the most
is porn. This is
porn for me. Yes. Yeah. And I can create reality. I can go back in time and see what it might have been like to be there. This is a fucking time machine.
I do that in my head. I mean, you and I have discussed about.
I do it in my head, Donald. I do it in my head.
I do it as well, but see, I did it.
This is not the same.
Word. No. See, that's what I'm trying to tell you is you're trying to recreate verbally what I got from others. So, I completely understand it. I lived my young life through the written word because all I had was a huge library of books. You know, discussed, and we've tried to pick pictures. A young man, introverted, walking through a library. My mother's library is massive. that is what created my vocabulary, my intellect, and all the things that we're discussing. How do you live that creates your life? I'm a farm man. I know how to milk a cow. I know how to get up in the morning. I know how to feed dogs. I mean, I know how to do all the farm stuff. But at the same time, I'm an intellect. What do you call a nerd that reads tons of nothing but sci-fi fantasy, but also knows how to, dude, I can plant that thing. I know how to run that tractor. I'm a mechanic. A cyber nerd? You know, my mother decided at one point that it was a high-tech redneck. And I think that was also a song by Joe Diddy. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, just back on the screen now, and I agree. I identify with all that. That's why come you and I have, we maintain, because we've both been vociferous readers over the years. But you see that screen right there? That's what it was. When I typed in that 1541, that was one of the first things that popped up. And it was like people crowded around together, which all killed them. And there's a ship that's not really Native American. But then you have this. It was disaster is what it's saying. Of course, and then everybody gathered up, which is what those people did. They had these huge mound systems they would go to whenever, like yearly, or when there was a problem. And they all went there, and they all had these new diseases that nobody had immunity for. And then all of a sudden, everybody was dead. And then, so now I'm going to, at another point in here, I go into like 1600. And where you see a lot of people, a lot of times, in 1600, America was very fucking quiet out here in the middle because everybody died. Tens, maybe more, hundreds of millions of people. 30, 40, 50, 60, 90, 100 million people died because of diseases that there was no immunity for. There was no herd type, no large herd type animals here. There were no horses. There were no cows. There were no pigs. But in 1541, Hernando de Soto came right up in our area. He supposedly died just right over there, at Lake Chico. Just right near us. But he came up through the middle of the country there, right up the Mississippi River, and dropped off there around Lake Village, Arkansas. And then just was hitting those his people hit different pathways, wound up in El Dorado, Arkansas. But this place was hugely populated until 1541 and thereafter. People just died. By the time people started coming here in the 1700s and 1800s, they're like, oh, wow, look at all these big trees, man. This place has been empty forever. But no, it had not been empty forever. It had been empty since the 1500s, when a lot of late 1400, 1492, whatever, people started coming here in massive amounts into the middle of the country and just decimated the population. And nothing was maintained anymore. But before then, these people burned off huge areas. They maintained the trees. They used them to build their houses and their camps and everything. But they died. And so, yeah, there were huge trees, and it did look like forest that hadn't been managed in a couple of 100 years, because that's exactly what the hell it was. And people moved back to the part of the world that we're in right now, and they figured out real quick that there were some huge trees here. But that was a new thing. Before then, we've learned
the
now.
writers of history are the ones who inform the rest. They
now they're just catching up,
history, even if it's not true. Go ahead.
Well, they didn't know. I mean, this is new research. They didn't know what poverty point was until the 1960s. And Ronald Reagan actually made the poverty point site a World Heritage Site in the 80s. But before that, they had farmed on it for years, plowed over every bit of it,
But
and just,
we wasn't taught that when we were going through history.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
We're now
It
finally figuring out that the winners of history are the ones who write it. We're now finding out some of those things.
Well, but that's the point. That's the point, though, is that they're just now. The winners are just now getting the research was not there. People had no clue because everybody fucking died. there was no way. We didn't come in and just like really just kind of amalgamate in here. We talking about a melting pot. We came in and killed everybody and restarted this motherfucker. Control Alt Delete. So there was no written history of these people. So now we're having to, just in the last recent years, as you say, in our time, this is what, if you read the book 1491, in other words, it's 1 year before Columbus got here, and he compares it before and after. And he talks about, the biggest thing that he talks about is what's called the Columbian Exchange. And the Columbian, and I'm reading, actually a lot of what I'm talking about is based upon what Charles C. Mann wrote in 1491, because you're right. He talks at the very first of the book. He says, "Hey, I went back into my closet, or to my attic at my parents' home. They said, clean all your stuff out here." He went in there and he was looking through his old books, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's what I was taught. Yes, that's what I was taught." But then what the new research that he was looking at was so far from that. And he was like, "My God, so what's being taught now?" And of course, a lot of schools are still teaching the same shit that we were taught back in the 1970s, which is just definitely not a good reflection of it, because they didn't understand it. They did not understand, but the research is there now. There's a lot of archaeology research going on in our neck of the woods right now, over there around Wilmot, over this Poverty Point culture that is 4,500 years old, 5,000 years old on up. In fact, some of them are even older than that. There's a 5,000-year-old site in just south of Monroe, Louisiana, called Watkins Break. And Poverty Point, Louisiana is over there. Of course, those places don't sound like ancient Indian places. That's why they're so hidden. But that's what they call them, the Poverty Point culture. And the reason why that thing is called Poverty Point, because that's the name of the farm where they were plowing over that thing for years. Poverty Point, we're living at the Poverty Point farm right here. We're barely making it by. That's what the name of it was. It's kind of a joke, and now it's the name of a World Heritage Site. But anyway, so now on here, on the screen here, I went through there's so much information to talk about with that. It truly is. To catch people up, if you're not really truly aware to dive really deep into American history and understood the nature of what's believed now as compared to whenever we were taught things in the 70s and 80s and the 90s, and even what's taught in some of the schools now, it is such a different reality. It is not the true reality that existed. It's just like you said, the winners wrote it. And I want you to take over from that and tell about other instances that about.
Well, and now I was waiting for that because going all the way back to your path to enlightenment, the well-traveled path, and how I was trying to contrast the Bible from a different area. Now, just imagine if the American Indian heritage had won their quote Bible things of the coyote and the hawk, the great raven. Just imagine if the Indians had won. They killed all the Europeans coming over. There would be a total different quote set of rules allowed. Now, then you go back to reservations and the way some of the diehard Indians believe and how people scoff at them. Well, they're following what they think would have been if Indians had actually been strong enough to overcome the swine flu and all those diseases that came over. And, so I do kind of sometimes have that imagination to go, what if the Indians had won? How would the world look? Would there be a quote, unquote, now we're going to call it the Bible, I'm not going to say holy, but the following of rules that is the norm of the civilization you live in? That's the only reason in my mind that's called a Bible. Where's the Holy Bible? Where everybody knows what it means, because that is the norm of the civilization you live in. But what it was called, the other ones, but now that's in Arabs and this and that. But we're talking the United States and Indian Americans. What if they had won? What if they had not died? Think about their rituals and their things. How would that have changed society? Better? Worse? We only won because, we brought in some stuff that they ain't used to. But the idea of it, that there could have been some of those folks crawling all up through that trail to enlightenment. The idea that you're thinking about it, and you're kind of like me, was where I was going. It was like, man, what are you going towards? Because at the end of the trail, there's still no enlightenment. It's just a well-worn travel path. Deer, pigs, hogs, everybody follows the trail. But what's at the end? Well, I guess you got to decide for yourself. Yeah, I've been watching that thing fly all over the place. I will now shut up.
Well, now I tell you this, I agree with what you're talking about there, because you're talking about, you kind of ended off exactly where I wanted to go next, and I've already kind of threw it out there. Of course, what people see on their screen is the Big Lebowski, and I'm putting him in rooms with blinds, and they're young blinds, and there's cacti in there, and they're very phallic looking for some reason. I don't know. But he looks really cool with those blinds, man. I got them all decked out, man. Sometimes with some Valentine's Day thing, because Valentine's Day is coming up, man. We got to start thinking about stuff for the ladies on Valentine's Day. It's just a kind of a precursor.
Oh, I've already talked to Miss D, and we've already had our Valentine's. Meow.
Well, anyway, so one of the biggest things that occurred, and we say who won. I think that's a weird way of looking at it from the way I looked at it now, because there was this thing that occurred, and it was called the Columbian Exchange. And the Columbian Exchange is the most, I'm going to explain this in a way I think that's going to be complicated. It's not going to be too complicated. Let me just say this. The indigenous Americans from the southern part of Southern America, almost in Antarctica, all the way up to the northern parts of Canada, and there was hundreds of millions of people that lived across that particular spectrum of land in that particular time in the 1400s and 1500s and such. But they were the most prodigious farmers that you could ever imagine. They created basically all of the food that we eat today. Corn is the most popular food probably in the world, specifically in the United States of America, not only because of its nutritional value, but because of its use as a fuel. It's used as plastics. It's used as a sweetener. It's used as a sweetener a whole lot. It's used in everything. And tortillas. I mean, it's using everything you can imagine. It's got some corn in it. It's got some corn or some egg in it. But they also potatoes.
Going back to the Spanish and the sugar cane and the rum, or
I'm not. We're going to get there. But first thing we got to do is look at how much food went around the world. People, there's a lot of things that people think of that they think of wrong. And this is some of the things that we've learned over the last few years. And there's two of them I want to bring up. One, when you think of the Irish, you think about potatoes. Well, that's incorrect, because the Irish got potatoes from the Native Americans. That is something that was shipped over. The potatoes from Americas saved the Irish. And then when there's a lot of times that people think of like, you think of Italians, you think of like tomatoes. Well, you shouldn't. You should think about Native Americans, because tomatoes came from the Americas. Now, when it got into the Columbian Exchange, into that flow of things that moved over to Europe, yes, you did see Italians and with tomatoes, and the Irish with potatoes. But those are indigenous American products. They come from the Columbian Exchange, and there's every kind of thing. It's not just, everybody talks now about how beautiful and great Mexican food is, and you're absolutely correct. The Aztec, which is the root of the Mexican culture, yes, this is the most beautiful food ever. They're right there along the greatest place in the world in terms of the weather and everything. Tequila, you know about that. But all this wonderful food came out of Americas. I can't even remember all of it now. There's no way I could. But any kind of a tube, any kind of a watermelon, squash, the beans, squash, tomatoes, potatoes.
We're more USA. The Americas is north all the way to Alaska, all the way to the end and tip of South America on the globe. The Americas. Please continue.
Well, that's exactly, and that's the way I describe it. And I appreciate you for clarifying that for people. If they don't understand, Americas is North and South America both, for sure. But, the Columbian Exchange was huge. And those blondes right there, they're very amorous. Can you look at your screen, Rick? Look at the dude, man. I want you to look at him for a minute.
Oh, I do. But, just going back to where all those products came from, it was from not just America, because a lot of people say, America, oh, well, that's USA. When you and I say America, it's not just the United States. We're including the Americas. That's the only reason to clarify it, because
I didn't say America. I said Americas.
I know, and that's why I'm trying to clarify. Americas means not just America. Because I know there's some folks that, they hear what they want to hear. So, yes, that's all the reason to clarify. But, I see the dude.
I think you're getting a haircut. I think you're getting a phone call.